There comes a day in every man's life when he stands over his own grave, not the one carved in stone, but the one carved in silence. The day you realize the person you've been carrying was never truly you, just a shadow stitched together from what everyone else wanted you to be. I stood there, over the ashes of who I used to be, and for the first time I didn't feel fear. I felt peace, because I knew the execution had to happen. This wasn't suicide. This was a sacrifice. The death of the mask that had suffocated me for years. The air was cold that night. The kind of cold that doesn't touch your skin. It pierces your soul. I could hear the echoes of my old self screaming, begging to stay alive. He whispered things like, "Don't change. People won't recognize you. They'll leave." And I whispered back, "Good," because I was done being a mirror for their comfort, done shrinking myself to fit inside their expectations, done smiling to make the weak feel strong. I was done being soft for people who celebrated my silence but feared my truth. Who I was wasn't built by my hands. He was built by their words, by every "you're not enough," by every "stay humble," by every "be realistic." They raised me in a cage and called it kindness. They broke my wings and said it was protection. They taught me to swallow my fire and call it peace. But deep inside, that fire never went out. It waited, smoldering in the dark, waiting for me to finally open my own coffin. I looked down at the ground and saw the dirt move. It wasn't the wind, it was the remains of my comfort, squirming as it died. My old habits, my old fears, my old need for validation, all clawing for one last breath. And I didn't stop it. I let them suffocate. Because evolution demands a body count. And the first to fall is always the version of you that was too scared to rise. There's something holy about destruction. People don't understand that. They think creation begins with light. But I learned, before there's light, there's always a burning, a cleansing, a funeral. You don't become strong by wishing. You become strong by burying weakness with your own hands, by digging the grave and watching the illusions fall in one by one. The illusion that you're not enough, gone. The illusion that you need their approval, gone. The illusion that peace comes from others, gone. I buried them all, and when the dirt covered their screams, I smiled. I remember placing a crown in that grave, a broken one, the kind I used to wear to please the world. It still had the fingerprints of everyone who once told me how to live. Every lie that bent me out of shape was etched into its surface. So I buried it too, half in dirt, half in memory, because it no longer belonged on my head. That crown was made of fear, and I was ready to forge a safety, new one, made of scars, solitude, and silence. People say transformation feels beautiful. They're wrong. It feels like dying in slow motion. It feels like watching your old self beg for mercy. While you stand there, stone-faced, knowing mercy is what kept you small. So I didn't save him. I didn't flinch. I watched the old me burn in the fire I once feared. And in the ashes I saw something move. Something raw. Something real. It wasn't born. It was revealed. The real me. emerging through the smoke. That night, the silence spoke louder than any scream. It said, "Now you are free. But freedom has a cost. You lose everything that made you comfortable. Every face that loved your mask turns away from your truth. Every door that opened for your weakness slams shut on your strength. And still, you walk, barefoot, through fire, through rejection, through solitude. Because the path to becoming yourself is paved with the corpses of who you used to be. When the flames finally died, I stood in the smoke, alone. And yet, I wasn't empty. I felt something ancient stir inside me. A heartbeat I'd never heard before, steady, relentless, like thunder beneath my ribs. That's when I realized the funeral wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The death of who I was wasn't a tragedy. It was the coronation of who I was meant to be. I buried the man they built, so the God within me could finally breathe. The world didn't chain me with metal. It chained me with words, with smiles, with comfort disguised as care. They told me who to be before I ever asked who I was. They handed me a script. Play the good one, the quiet one, the predictable one. And I obeyed, because I thought obedience meant belonging. I thought silence meant peace. But it was never peace. It was imprisonment, dressed as acceptance. They said be kind, but what they meant was be weak. They said be humble, but what they meant was tinisewi, stay small. They said be patient, but what they meant was wait until your fire goes out. I spent years living by rules written by cowards, people who never walked through fire telling me how to survive the heat, people who never built anything telling me what's worth building. And I believed them, until their voices became my prison walls. I remember the first time I tried to break free. They laughed, the kind of laughter that cuts deeper than any blade. "You've changed," they said, "you're not the same." Of course I wasn't. I had outgrown their smallness. I had stopped bowing to their gods of mediocrity. But they don't forgive that. The moment you stop living for their comfort, you become their threat. Their insecurity bleeds into your name. They'll call you selfish, arrogant, cold. But in truth, you just stopped bleeding for people who never healed you. Society loves a man who suffers quietly. It loves the broken one who apologizes for his pain. It loves the tamed lion that never roars. Because silence keeps the system running. Because submission keeps them safe. But the moment you awaken, the moment you tear through their illusions, they tremble. Because your existence reminds them of everything they buried in themselves. They will try to convince you that peace means surrender, that love means weakness, that forgiveness means forgetting. But peace without strength is slavery, love without respect is poison, and forgiveness without boundaries is suicide. I learned that the hard way. Every time I gave, they took more. Every time I stayed quiet, they spoke louder. Every time I said it's fine, I was teaching them that my soul was for sale, and they paid me in validation, cheap, temporary, empty. You see, the world doesn't destroy you with violence. It destroys you with repetition. Every day, a little less of you survives. You start to forget how it felt to be fierce. You start to confuse calm with numbness. You start to wear your own silence like a crown and call it growth. But inside, something still screams. A voice that says, "This isn't who I am." And that voice becomes the beginning of rebellion. I looked around one day and realized I wasn't living. I was performing. Performing sanity for people who drove me insane. Performing kindness for those who fed on my pain. Performing loyalty to people who would never bleed for me. And I realized this world doesn't reward authenticity. It punishes it. It will crucify you for being honest. It will exile you for being awake. But that's how I knew I was finally alive. The cage they built wasn't made of bars. It was built from their words. Don't dream too big. Don't love too deep. Don't fight too hard. Don't be too much. And for years, I obeyed those commands like gospel. Until one day, I asked myself, who benefits from my obedience? And the answer was simple: everyone but me. So I stopped listening. I stopped kneeling at the altar of approval. I stopped asking for permission to exist. Because the world only respects one thing: power. And power only rises from truth. Your truth. Unfiltered, unforgiven. That's when I understood something they never wanted me to know. Freedom isn't found in rebellion. It's found in responsibility. The moment you take ownership of your pain, no one can weaponize it again. I began to see the world clearly, not as it pretends to be, but as it truly is. A marketplace of souls. Everyone selling pieces of themselves just to be accepted. Smiling while bleeding. Praising what they hate. Bowing to what they fear. And I refused. I refused to sell my fire. I refused to dim my storm. I refused to decorate my cage and call it home. They called me defiant. I called it resurrection. The world built my cage, yes, but it also built my rage. And rage, when sharpened by silence, becomes clarity. It becomes strength. It becomes prophecy. I learned that no one frees you. You break the lock yourself. You bleed for the key. You shatter the illusion. And when the dust clears, you see the world for what it is. A battlefield. And you're the weapon they never expected to survive. So let them talk. Let them mock. Let them try to shrink what they can't understand. Because every insult is just confirmation that your wings are growing too wide for their cages. And when they say you've changed, smile. Because that means you're finally free. They built the cage, but they forgot. I was born to break it. There's a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It just sits quietly inside your chest and rewrites everything you believe about people. Betrayal isn't loud. It's not a gunshot. It's a whisper. It comes from the ones who promised they never would. From the ones you let close enough to know where to cut. And when the knife goes in, it doesn't kill you instantly. It teaches you. It teaches you that loyalty isn't sacred to everyone. That love isn't a shield. It's bait. That sometimes the people you die for wouldn't even flinch while watching you bleed. I used to think pain was punishment, that betrayal was a curse. But I learned it's revelation, it's clarity in its most brutal form. Because betrayal doesn't destroy the real you. It destroys the false image you had of others. It burns away illusion, and in that fire, you finally see truth. Not the kind painted in pretty colors, but the kind that leaves scars. The kind that says, this is who they were. This is who you are. Now rise. When they betrayed me, it didn't happen all at once. It happened in small moments, in forgotten promises, in eyes that once looked proud but now looked bored, in conversations that suddenly felt empty. I started to feel it before I knew it. The distance, the silence, the unspoken truth. Then one day the knife showed itself. Not through violence, through indifference. They didn't stab me to kill me. They stabbed me to test how long it would take for me to die quietly. I remember the exact moment my heart cracked. It wasn't dramatic. No thunder, no tears. Just stillness. The kind of stillness that hums in your bones. That's when I realized, betrayal doesn't break your heart. It breaks your illusion of safety. And that's when the real war begins. Because now you have to fight a battle inside your mind. The battle between who you were and who the pain is forcing you to become. In that silence, I stopped asking why. Because why is a prison. You'll never find peace there. Some things have no reason. They just reveal reason. Maybe they betrayed me because they couldn't handle my light. Maybe they saw what I was becoming and feared being left behind. Or maybe they just never loved me. They loved the version of me that served them. Either way, their betrayal was the fire that burned off my disguise. People think betrayal hardens you. It doesn't. It hollows you out. It empties you until only silence remains. But that silence, it's not weakness. It's rebirth. Because in that silence, you start to hear your own voice again. The one you lost under all the noise. The one that says, I don't need them to understand me. I just need to keep walking. And you do. One slow, deliberate step at a time. Through the ashes of trust. Through the fog of memory. Through the battlefield of your own thoughts. At first, you'll hate them. You'll curse their names in your mind. You'll replay the scenes and rewrite what you should have said. But then something happens. You stop caring. The rage burns itself out. The grief turns to dust. And what's left is power. Cold, quiet power. Because you finally understand. They didn't destroy you. They revealed you. They showed you where your limits were, then forced you to surpass them. They showed you who truly stands beside you and who just stood close for warmth. I used to want revenge. I used to want them to feel what I felt. But revenge is a chain. It keeps you bound to what broke you. And I didn't crawl through hell just to live chained to ghosts. So I stopped chasing retribution. I started chasing evolution. Because the best revenge is rising so high they can't even reach your shadow. One night, I went back to the place they left me. The same place where I thought it was over. The ground was still scorched from the fire they started, and I smiled. Because in that same fire I had learned to breathe. I whispered to the silence, thank you. Not out of forgiveness, out of understanding. Because pain is the only teacher that doesn't lie. And it taught me this. Loyalty isn't about who stands beside you when you shine. It's about who still believes in you when you burn. The betrayal that broke me was the forge that built me. Every scar became a signature. Every wound became wisdom. Every silence became strategy. I stopped trying to prove my worth to people who couldn't see it. I stopped offering loyalty to the unworthy. And I stopped apologizing for surviving. Because survival is not shame, it's proof. Proof that even when they buried me, I refused to stay dead. So when you see me now, don't mistake the calm for softness. That's the stillness of someone who's seen the worst and decided to stay standing anyway. That's not anger anymore. That's control. That's not bitterness. That's understanding. That's not pain. That's power. Refined, silent, eternal. They thought betrayal would break me, but all it did was burn the weakness out of my soul. After the fire, there was nothing left. No noise, no names, no hands reaching to pull me back. Just silence. The kind of silence that terrifies most people, but heals men like me. Because when the world falls quiet, you finally hear what's been whispering inside you all along. The voice you buried under noise. The instincts you ignored to please others. The truth you were too afraid to face. That's where I found it. My strength. Not in noise. In stillness. At first, the silence feels like a grave. You think it means you've lost everything. You think it means you're forgotten. You think it means you're finished. But then the days pass, and the stillness begins to breathe. You start noticing the things you never saw before. The rhythm of your heartbeat, the weight of your thoughts, the sound of your own determination. You start realizing that silence isn't punishment. It's preparation. It's the forge where warriors are built. In that solitude, I became my own ally. There was no one left to call, no one left to blame, no one left to rescue me. And so I became the rescue. Every morning I woke up to the sound of my own willpower. The alarm wasn't on a phone, it was in my soul. A steady command, get up, again. No applause, no validation, just repetition. The grind, the discipline, the quiet war within. They call it loneliness. I call it sacred space. Because in silence I started to rebuild myself piece by piece. Not for them, for me. I learned to sit with my pain without numbing it, to let it speak, to ask it what it wanted from me. And it answered, become stronger than the reason you were broken. That became my purpose. I trained in that silence, not just my body, my mind, my emotions, my spirit. I stopped waiting for the right time. I stopped chasing motivation. I made consistency my religion. The world mocked me for disappearing. They thought I was lost. But you don't lose yourself in silence. You sharpen yourself. You melt away what's weak until only the weapon remains. In the quiet, I learned patience. Not the passive kind that waits, the powerful kind that builds. Because every day I stayed silent, the world forgot my name. But when I came back, it would remember my echo. That's the difference between noise and impact. Noise is heard once. Impact is felt forever. And silence creates impact. There were nights I sat in darkness, no light, no sound, just the rhythm of my breath against the void. And I asked myself, who am I now? The answer didn't come in words. It came in realization. I wasn't who I was before the pain. I wasn't who they said I was either. I was something in between. Becoming the man I was meant to be all along. The one who didn't need saving. The one who didn't seek approval. The one who could walk through hell and come out carrying fire in his hands. That's what silence does. It strips away the noise of the world so you can hear the roar within. It teaches you that not every battle needs witnesses, that not every wound needs an audience, that healing isn't loud, it's slow, it's deliberate, it's done in shadows. People fear silence because it exposes them, but I embraced it because it rebuilt me. In that darkness, I learned that peace is not the absence of struggle, it's the mastery of it. The quiet became my training ground. I learned control. I learned how to move without announcement, how to plan without boasting, how to rise without warning. The old me would have shouted my goals. The new me, he lets the results speak. Because silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. It's the art of knowing when to strike and when to simply let the world underestimate you. One day I looked in the mirror and didn't see a broken man anymore. I saw a soldier of stillness, a man who doesn't flinch at emptiness because he's made peace with it. And that's when I knew the world no longer had power over me. Not their noise, not their doubt, not their absence, because silence had taught me how to stand alone and call it strength. So if they wonder where I went, tell them I was in the quiet, learning to rebuild what they couldn't destroy. Tell them I was at war with myself, and I won. Because when a man learns to find calm in chaos, when he learns to build in silence, when he learns to rise unseen, he becomes unstoppable. The silence didn't break me. It built the kind of strength noise could never touch. Silence can teach, but fire transforms. You don't become powerful by healing gently. You become powerful when the world breaks you, and you choose to rebuild yourself with rage, discipline, and purpose. Fire is not your enemy. It's your mirror. It shows you what you are made of. And when I walked out of that silence, I didn't come out calm. I came out burning. I used to think peace was the goal. Now I know peace is the reward. The goal is power. The kind of power that cannot be taken, only earned. And power is born in fire, in pressure, in the unbearable moments where everything inside you wants to quit. But you don't. You just keep moving, step by step, through the heat, through the doubt, through the pain that tried to convince you to stop. Transformation isn't beautiful, it's violent. It's skin shedding, it's ego dying. It's the sound of your excuses screaming as you drag them into the flames. You burn who you were. You burn who they said you should be. You burn everything that doesn't align with who you're becoming. And from those ashes you rise, sharper, colder, truer. I didn't heal to be soft. I healed to be untouchable, unshakable, unforgiving in my pursuit of purpose. The world called me angry, and they were right. But it wasn't the kind of anger that destroys. It was the kind that refines. The kind that turns pain into progress and fury into focus. You can't build an empire without fire. You can't claim your throne without burning the lies that held you back. You can't meet your true self without killing the weak one who begged for mercy. Because transformation demands violence, not against others, but against your own comfort. Every morning I forged myself again, in the weight of discipline, in the pain of growth, in the silence of sacrifice. No motivation, no audience, no reward, just the relentless repetition of becoming who I said I'd be. That's what separates kings from victims. Victims wait for change. Kings become. There's a moment in transformation when you realize there's no going back. When you can smell the smoke of your past life and you're not even tempted to look behind. Because the fire that burned it is the same one lighting your way forward. I used to flinch at pain. Now I lean into it. Because I know what it means. It means evolution. It means progress. It means the old me is dying again. And that's good. He deserves to die every time I level up. I started to understand why warriors train in hell. Because heaven never made anyone strong. Comfort never created greatness. It's the furnace that builds legends. It's the struggle that writes history. When you embrace pain, it stops being punishment. It becomes permission. Permission to ascend. Permission to take back your power. Permission to say, I'm done surviving. It's time to dominate. And I did. Day by day, I replaced fear with fire, doubt with discipline, grief with grind. Every scar became scripture. Every setback became fuel. People saw the change. They said, you've become cold. No, I became clear. I don't feel less. I feel deeply, just selectively. I don't give energy to ghosts anymore. I give it to goals. There's a line between peace and submission. I walk it with a blade. Because real strength isn't found in calm waters. It's forged in the storm. Fire doesn't ask permission to exist. It doesn't apologize for burning. It consumes, it destroys, and then it creates. That's what I became, a walking creation of chaos and control. Rage in my heart, peace in my eyes, purpose in my stride. People think transformation is about becoming someone new. It's not. It's about remembering who you were before the world silenced you. Before they buried your instinct under doubt. Before they convinced you to hide your hunger. You're not changing. You're returning. Returning to the version of yourself that was fearless, raw, and untamed. The version that never needed permission to exist. That's what the fire gives back to you, your essence. I learned to love the burn. Because every time life tried to set me ablaze, I realized I am the fire. You can't destroy what's made a flame. You can't drown it. You can't bury it. You can't silence it. You can only watch it spread. So I let it. I let my rage become the light that guides me. I let my pain become the heat that moves me. I let my losses become the fuel that never runs out. And in doing so, I stopped being human in the way they understood. I became something else, something forged. When you kill who you were and rise from the ashes, you don't come back the same. You come back colder, cleaner, calmer, because you've seen the fire and you know it never burned you, it purified you. They tried to burn me alive, but all they did was light the forge that made me immortal. Every man dies once, some by blade, some by betrayal, some by time. But a rare few die while still alive and are reborn in the same flesh. Reborn not in body, but in will. Reborn not in blood, but in fire. That's what I became. A reborn soul wearing the scars of its own resurrection. A reminder that death is not the end. It's the purification of purpose. When I buried my old self, I didn't realize I was writing scripture. Every pain became a verse. Every silence became a sermon. Every scar became a prophecy, etched into my skin by time, spoken now by thunder. Because men like me aren't remembered for what we lost. We're remembered for what we built after we lost everything. I am not the same creature the world once mocked. I don't beg the heavens for mercy. I am the storm they whisper about when the sky turns black. They ask, what happened to him? Tell them this: I died, and I met the version of me they never could. The one who doesn't flinch, the one who doesn't beg, the one who doesn't break. That's the prophecy of the reborn. Once you've walked through your own destruction, there's nothing left to fear. I look at the world now and I see it clearly. People still wearing their masks, still living for approval, still afraid of being alone. And I don't judge them. I pity them. Because they haven't died yet. They haven't faced themselves. They haven't met the truth that burns. And until you do, you're not alive. You're surviving on borrowed air, feeding on borrowed dreams. But the moment you face your own fire, that's when you live. The reborn don't move like others. We walk slower, speak deeper, look quieter, because we've seen behind the veil. We know that power doesn't roar, it hums. We know that peace doesn't smile, it stands still. We've learned that sometimes winning means walking away, that sometimes forgiveness is just forgetting their existence, that sometimes the loudest vengeance is indifference. Because when you're reborn, you don't chase war. You embody it, and that's enough. I've become my own myth now. Half man, half memory, fully purpose. They'll tell my story in whispers, as if speaking it too loud might summon me. Because they know you can't kill what's already died. You can't destroy what's already burned. You can't bury what learned to live in the dark. I've seen the abyss, and instead of falling, I built a throne inside it. This is my prophecy. Every man must die once, by pain or by choice. And those who choose it, those who bury their weakness willingly, they rise above the rest. They become untouchable, unshakable, eternal. Because the world can't harm what's already been purified by fire. When the next storm comes, I won't hide. I'll walk into it, bare-chested, unafraid. Because I don't fear the lightning anymore. I am what it strikes. I am what it awakens. I am what it cannot burn. This is not arrogance. This is awareness. The realization that after everything they took, everything they broke, everything they buried, I still remain. And not as a ghost, but as a god of my own making. The day I killed my old self, I didn't lose a life. I gained an empire. I met the man behind the pain, the truth beneath the ashes, the warrior beneath the wounds. I am not here to seek redemption. I am here to rewrite the definition of power, because I am living proof that you can be buried, burned, betrayed, and still rise. Not in spite of it, but because of it. Let the world remember this. You can kill my body, but you'll never kill my will. You can silence my voice, but you'll never silence my echo. Because men like me, we don't die once. We die and rise and reign forever. The day I killed my old self, I met the real me, and he doesn't die. He conquers eternity.